We cannot talk about electric cars without talking about charging them. As a matter of fact, most people don't know much about charging electric cars, even though it's probably the biggest part of what should be their decision about whether or not to buy one and which one to buy. So today I'm going to show you all of the most important videos that I've made for you guys to know everything about electric car charging, and specifically which chargers you should be considering for your electric car. And the best part is this: I'm actually going to have the best electric car charging expert in the world, and this is not just my opinion, Tom Moloughney, in pretty much every single video giving his expert opinion about the subject. So let's get going, but before that, a quick reminder that this video is brought to you by EnergyPal. Are you thinking about going solar but not sure what panels to get, whether or not to get a home battery, or how much all of this is going to cost? Well, EnergyPal will do all of that for you, and you will get a $500 gift card when your installation is complete if you use the link in the description of this video. All right, so with that out of the way, let's talk about the biggest problem that every electric car owner faces, and we actually did this as a live video, so that will explain the format. So here we go. First of all, electric cars are better than gas cars. Do I need to explain that? They are faster, the performance is better, they are more environmentally friendly, they're quieter, the tech is better, the self-driving technology is going into the electric cars, not the gas cars. They are safer because there's no engine, there's better crumbling zone, it's got apps. We only have an hour, so I'm going to stop right now. But there's one thing that electric cars, unfortunately, are lagging way behind gas cars, and that is charging. Now, gassing electric car is easy. Well, not cheap nowadays. I see it's $7 a gallon. I passed the gas station the other day. It's insane. But it is definitely easy. And of course, you get an added bonus of getting high from the gas fumes, which I'm not going to lie, I have missed that just a little bit. But listen, it takes 3, 4, 5 minutes to gas your car. It takes, obviously hours at home, but with the fast charging networks, it still takes about 30, 45 minutes sometimes to charge a regular, normal electric car when you are going long distance. And unfortunately, that's still an issue. And let's talk about long distance first, because when I got my very first Tesla back in 2012, right, and I showed it to my friends, and I was like, oh, guys, look at this. It's all electric. It's got a good range. It's got this big monitor and the app that comes along with it. Look at this marvel of technology that is 2012 Tesla Model S. And the first and only question they would ask me is like, yeah, but can you drive it to LA? And I'm like, when do you need to drive to LA? Like once a year? How is this the first and only question? But unfortunately, that still is one of the biggest questions when people ask when they're shopping for an electric car. Now, the problem, the needle has been moved, right? Because most of the electric cars you're buying now are on the road. They have more than 200 miles of range, and more now have over 300 miles of range. So you don't have to charge as often. For example, I live here in Oakland, and I go to Santa Cruz once a week, and that's a long drive, but I make it all the way there and still stop by a few friends' houses and make it back on the same charge. So, and my car doesn't have the best range out there. As a matter of fact, it has half of the best range out there. Of course, there are fast charging networks like the biggest public one here, Electrify America. As a matter of fact, I'm just about to use them a lot because I will be traveling. I'm leaving California at the end of this month, and I'll be traveling through the United States. And if you guys still want me to make a video about why I'm leaving California, which is not very political, let me know. I will make a video. It will have nothing to do with electric cars, though. So let me know. I'll be happy to explain. There's also EV Go that's been expanding, especially now that they have a partnership with General Motors. And of course, Tesla Superchargers, the largest infrastructure essentially for fast charging here in Europe and in China. But it looks like here in America, they will be open to all of us very soon because Tesla wants that sweet money from that infrastructure bill. And that infrastructure bill will fund a lot of, infrastructure.
And think, even now you can pretty much travel anywhere in America, which I might in the next several months. So any additions will only enhance what we already have, which is not bad. However, the biggest challenge that I've seen, and this is not very common yet, but I think it will be very soon unless it grows. And I've seen it in, like, last time I visited Tesla supercharger, there was a line, right? You have to wait in order to wait to get your charge. And this was in Vacaville, California, not exactly a very popular charging location. And it was like a Sunday afternoon. But and I've seen those, throughout the years, and it's a problem. But the other day I've seen one on Electrify America here in Oakland, California. That's another problem that definitely needs to be solved, and of course it's solvable by building more of these. However, the other problem that's contributing to this one is the fact that people who are supposed to charge at home, 99% of people should be charging at home overnight every day, are not. And that's why they coming over to Tesla superchargers, Electrify America, and taking up the spots because they need to charge to go, to work the next day, and taking it away from people who are traveling. So that's a problem. But when it comes to charging, 99% of you, and I know some of you will say, oh, but I go to Tahoe every weekend. Granted. But for most of the people, very much most of the time, they should charge at home because it is not only convenient, it is not only much cheaper, but it takes like 7 seconds. And I know you're saying, well, Alex, what do you mean? It takes hours and hours and hours. What do you care what's happening when you're asleep? The total amount of time that you need to put into getting your car fully charged overnight is about 7 seconds. 3 seconds to plug it in, 4 seconds to take it out and hang it back on the wall, and you're done. You're ready to go. So it is the most convenient. However, that's not what's happening. Now, if you own a house or if you're renting a house, most people like myself, when I lived in my house, I would put up a charging station or at least run a 240 outlet. And even if you're renting and there is a electric dryer outlet, you can use something like, NeoCharge. They're one of the sponsors. You can get it, plug it in. As you can see on both sides, you can charge either 2 cars or have your laundry done and charge your car. No problem. But where the challenge starts, and I don't know, Tom has a very different opinion on this, and of course, he will make sure to let you guys know once he is on. When you're renting an apartment, that's a big problem. I've had this problem ever since I bought my very first electric car in 2012, and even this year when I was moving from Sacramento to Oakland, it was once again a challenge. It was very few apartment complexes have dedicated charging spots. That's what you need, a dedicated charging spot. You can't just rely on like 1 or 2 that they have for common use, because you don't want to gamble on whether or not you'll be able to pick up your kids from school the next day, right? You need a dedicated charger. Now, the weird thing is that I finally found one, and we had 20 spots. I thought, oh my God, there will be 20 electric cars charging. No. Half of the spots are taken by gas cars, and the other half that's taken by electric cars are not even charging. I think I'm one of like 2 or 3 people who are charging their electric cars next to electric car charger. In addition to that, we have tons of people, there's Rivians and Teslas and Bolts that are just parked in regular spots and they never charge. And granted, some of them probably charge at work, but a lot of them go out there and spend an hour, 2 hours a week charging somewhere else. And that is not a good experience for an electric car owner, and something that I think most regular common people and families are not willing to do, to take another 2 or 3 hours away from their families and go and charge. And obviously, it's just inconvenient for those of us who don't have the ability. Now, as I'm getting on the road, I will be one of those people. I'll definitely report back to you guys whether I like it or not, but I'm pretty sure I know the answer. Now, at the same time, we have not had too many laws around the country passed requiring apartment complexes to put up the electric car chargers, which is a shame. I think at most some counties pass laws where, okay, if you're building a new building next year, up to 20% of the parking spots need to be dedicated electric chargers. But that's not going to do in another few years. And what are we doing about the spots at all of the apartment complexes that are already up? There's not much of a solution here, and we need one. Now, I promised you, I told you that I will tell you about my favorite way to refuel your battery, which is just as fast as gassing a car, which is a battery swap. It's not very popular. It's not very popular with you. It's not very popular in the industry, and it's definitely not very popular with Tom, who will let you know why in a second. But NIO, as you're watching them right now, has kind of pioneered and built out a pretty decent battery swap network in China, and now launched it in Europe. We'll see how that goes over there. And then there's a company called Ample here in San Francisco. They've done it actually in a better way, where they don't swap out the whole battery. They just swap out one of the 6 modules, which I think is the way to go for sure. And of course, CATL, one of the biggest battery supply companies, has launched their own series of batteries that are swappable. And there's actually one model of electric cars in China that's already using that. So we'll see if that takes off. But that would be my choice because it is just very quick. But bottom line is this: when you're trying to implement a new technology into the masses, that technology needs to be better and hopefully cheaper, but definitely better than what people have right now. And we're almost there, but charging is definitely holding the entire thing back. So now I think it's a good time to bring in my friend and the host of the State of Charge YouTube channel, and really the best expert I know in this industry, Tom Moloughney. Tom, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, Alex, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Well, let's start off by talking about long distance charging. Do you think we're finally at the point where long distance charging, long distance traveling in an electric car, as long as it was purchased in the last few years or so, is good enough to say, okay, we got it. You can long distance travel in America and Europe just fine?
So, I think the point where we're at right now, it's better than it's ever been. It continues to get better. I think for most road trips, at least, not all, but for most road trips, what we have today is adequate.
Yeah, and I think so. I'm looking forward to it with mine. Now, let's talk about home charging, right? Obviously, homeowners like you and I, we're good. The problem, of course, is that most people rent, and a lot of people live in apartment complexes. Now, I remember me and you had a lot of disagreements over this. I think when my ex-girlfriend asked me, whether or not she should buy an electric car, and I knew she was going to live in an apartment complex. I said, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to probably just stick with a gas for now, because you will have to go and consistently charge at a fast charging network. Do you believe this is still a problem we need to solve?
Yeah, well, we still have inadequate infrastructure, particularly for those that live in apartments and multifamily dwellings that can't charge at home, Alex. It's a problem. It's not a problem that's insurmountable, but where we are today, it's still very inconvenient if you can't charge at home.
So what needs to change? Well, I mean, there's no laws that I've seen that are being passed on a larger scale and really going to make a dent in this. How do we make the apartment complex managers and owners to add these, relatively expensive spots? But I still feel like it's something that you have to do sooner or later. And with the infrastructure bill, it should be a little bit easier on them financially. How do we make it happen?
I think it's pretty easy. You stop renting from them if they don't provide it, which is what's going to happen. The market's going to work this out, Alex. As more and more people get EVs, they're going to, tell their building manager or the owner, look, we're moving out because we have an EV and you don't provide charging here. And then when somebody is calling them to rent their apartment, they're going to ask them all about the apartment and say, oh, by the way, I could charge my car there, right? No, I can't. Oh, okay, forget it. I'm going to look somewhere else. And then the property managers are going to install charging. They're going to have to, or they're going to have empty units.
Wow, you are a real capitalist. The market will work itself out. David here has an interesting idea, and I kind of agree with it. Let's see if you do. He says, so we need some ability to book some chargers with a monetary penalty for not using the booked charge time and suspended access for repeated no-shows. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I know ChargePoint has in their app reserve charging. In not all the locations, they have the ability to do it, but the site owner then is the one that ultimately decides if they want to initiate that or not. I think that's a possibility coming up. I think that would be good for the networks because they could also see exactly what the utilization is and how many people get denied because that station is booked. And then that might help them add more stations at the sites that need more plugs. So yeah, I think we're going to get to that point where you'll be able to book. You're in the middle of a road trip and you book a station that's 100 miles away. You book it for 2 hours from now, and you roll in right in the right time and plug in, and that plug's reserved for you only.
What do you think about if you're charging within, I don't know, 5 miles of your address, right? Obviously, a local. Should your rate be higher because you're essentially misusing the charging station?
No, because what if you live in an apartment and you need that charging station? I mean, I understand what you're saying there. And, in some use cases, yeah, like if the person could charge somewhere else, but we can't penalize people that live in apartments and make them pay more. That wouldn't be fair.
All right, here's another interesting one about battery swap. Pete says battery swap stations appear to be one car at a time. One, if there are 2, 3, 4 cars in line, might as well charge. Well, no, Pete, that's not how math works, because the battery swap, takes about 2 or 3 minutes nowadays, and it will improve even faster depending on how many sort of modules you want to replace. So the last time I was at Tesla Supercharger, the line was about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And when I got stuck in line, that was another, the guy behind me waited for probably almost 30 minutes. Though, if you have 2, 3, even 4 cars in line, that's still going to be under 10 minutes of waiting versus what I've just described. So that goes much faster. And of course, yes, right now there's one at a time, but the more cars they make, the more demand there is, then there will be 2 cars at a time. Like, you can't assume that one technology is improving, but the competing one is not and just standing still. Tom, does that make sense?
Yeah, I when I talked to Neo about that, they had said, I mean, their stations are kind of like they can drop them in place. They just need the interconnection from the utility. They said it was very easy for them to add another bay at the same location if the demand warranted it. But you still can have a situation, Alex, where Pete mentioned, where just like the superchargers, usually there's never a backup, but on a holiday, a lot of people are traveling. So now there's, 10 cars in the queue waiting to get their 3-minute swap. So, you're both kind of right there. It definitely can happen. But the operators can also add additional bays if sites are continuously, backed up.
And they're mobile too. Here's an interesting follow-up question from LY3T. Will battery swap cover you when your battery cannot hold a charge after years of use? Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. That's a kind of another perk of a battery swap, is because the batteries are maintained by the company, in this case, Neo or Ample. So they will always have a good battery. If the battery, is seeing some degradation or just getting old, that just goes right out of the circulation.
Yeah, you're correct, Alex. So there's no a problem with that. Like the comment said, you don't there's no your battery holding a charge. When you swap out and get a new battery, now that's your battery. And what happens is the manufacturers, in addition to charging the batteries, they'll be tested at these battery swap stations. And if the battery falls below a certain capacity, they'll just get taken out of circulation. So there'll be no such thing as having a battery that, can't hold the charge if you're using battery swap.
Yeah, and to me, it's one of the perks. All right, let's go to another one from Adam. He asks, thoughts on Airbnb of chargers, companies like EV Watch or C Charging in UK. Now, we have one here called EV Match. As a matter of fact, I had their CEO on a while back, where essentially, if you have a charger that's external or you can run a cable, people come in and charge. To me, I'm not really sure how that would work in terms of, if you're traveling long distance, that's really the only time when you would need it. And, level 2 charging, and that's the maximum that people can offer at their houses and even businesses, is just not fast enough unless it's an emergency. Do you agree with that, Tom? Is there any type of an Airbnb, way of sort of contributing to the infrastructure?
Yeah, there is actually. You can limit the time when your charger's available. And it will lock itself out during the times you say it's not available. So let's say, for instance, you work all day at an office. So you're not home from 6 in the morning till 6 at night, with your commute or whatever. You could make your home charger available during those 12 hours. And now somebody who lives down the block that lives in an apartment, they roll up to your house at 6 o'clock in the morning when you leave, and they plug in and they leave their car there all day, and they go walk home because they live a block away and they live in an apartment. And now they're essentially using your charger while they're at home working and while you're at work. So there is a business case for this, and it can work.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't thought about that. Martin says EVs with swappable batteries should be cheaper to buy than EVs including a fixed battery. Well, not only that, but even leasing a battery should be cheaper than paying that extra money for the fixed battery, because as I mentioned, you shouldn't swap the entire battery. If you're just going to the grocery store and to work, you really need a very small part of your battery. So you're dragging all of this charged battery cells that you're not going to use most of the time, which actually decreases the range that the module that actually will be used, the module of battery cells that will be used, because it has to drag another bunch of whatever 60 kilowatt hour battery with it. So that should be cheaper. Tom, do you see any issues with the math here?
No, you're correct. The lease of the vehicle would be less, but then you've got to pay whatever it is to lease the batteries or to join the battery swap system. So, I don't think long term, I think if you were to net it out over 5 years, you're not going to save any money because you still need use of a battery. I don't think the financial saving would be worth it, in my opinion.
All right, in the next video, Tom is going to reveal 5 best electric home chargers on a budget. And this is something that people do struggle with because, they pay all this money up front for the car and then realize, oh crap, I need to spend more money on the home charger. And this is where if you save, sometimes you can get in trouble. And we are talking about an electric device. So these are the electric home chargers on the budget that are still pretty good. No, you can't just buy the cheapest charger on Amazon and call it a day. It's one of those things when you cannot afford to buy cheap shit. It is a high voltage electric device that can cause some big trouble, including burning down your house. But it doesn't mean you have to spend a fortune on it either. So what to do? And what to do is to ask the best expert in the world in electric car charging, Tom Moloughney, who is a veteran EV journalist and a host of the biggest EV charging channel on YouTube, appropriately named State of Charge. Now, when I asked Tom to come on and talk to us about the top 5 most affordable home chargers, he told me that the minimum budget for anything he can vouch for would have to be around $500. All right, fair enough. Tom, let's talk about affordable home chargers, but before we get to the list, what makes an affordable but also good home charger?
So on the affordable, Alex, if you look at the market now, there's so many chargers out there that cost $600, $700, $800. I took a look at $500 and less. I consider that affordable because that's on the low end of a charger that is relatively high powered level 2 charger. What makes a charger good? Well, there's a lot of things. It should be built well. It should have a good warranty. It should be safety certified. It should have a nice long cable, a good, strong, well-made connector, and a nice connector holster. There's a lot of things that I use when I judge if a charger's a good charger or not.
All right, now I know you test almost all of them yourself and you put them literally through hell, but the most entertaining part of your videos is what you call a deep freeze, when you take the charger and put it in the freezer and then leave it there overnight. But humor me this: what is the good boy from New Jersey like yourself doing with a commercial ice cream freezer? And what do you use it for when you're not testing home chargers?
So I actually bought this just to freeze the chargers. Many freezers only go down to like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. But commercial ice cream chests go way below that because ice cream has to be kept way below freezing. Otherwise it gets soft. So I actually went out and bought a commercial ice cream freezer so I could do these cable deep freeze tests. And the goal is for me to get the charger down to about -15 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. Then to see how well the cable bends, because this is really for people that live in the northern states, Alex. If you live in San Diego or southern Texas, you don't have to worry about this too much. But in areas where it's going to get down way below freezing overnight, think about it. If your vehicle's parked outside and your charger's outside, some people's chargers are mounted outside. When you get to your car in the morning, you go to unplug it and you've got like a frozen rope and the cable won't even bend. So I do this to see how pliable and how easy the cable's going to be to work with on those really cold nights.
Every time you do it, man, it's always entertaining. But let's get to the list. And are these in any particular order?
No, I just threw out, you said, give me some of your top picks for good chargers that are affordable. And that's what I gave you.
All right, let's get going with number 1.
Okay, so number 1, we're going to talk about the Grizzl-E Classic. The Grizzl-E Classic is a 40 amp non-smart charger. Now there's chargers are smart chargers, means they typically come with an app and they're Wi-Fi enabled and you can manipulate things through your app. You can start and stop a charging session. You could check out data, but not a lot of people are really concerned with that. Most people just want the charger to just charge their car and that's it and be reliable. And the Grizzl-E does that. It's very well made. It's made of it's got a really thick outer aluminum casing. Most chargers are plastic these days, even though some of the plastic's strong. This is an incredibly tough thing. The Grizzl-E actually drove over it with cars and everything to prove how tough it was. And it's a really well-made charger. It's got a nice long cable and it's kind of like the no nonsense. If you just want something that's going to be reliable and affordable and work, then this is definitely one of your considerations.
All right. Now the next one is, I believe it's Amazing E Fast.
Yeah. So, the Amazing E is a line of portable chargers. They're small chargers. They're portable from a Clipper Creek. And so the Amazing E Fast is a 32 amp portable charger. It's very small, very lightweight. You can carry it with you. It plugs into a NEMA 1450 outlet. It'll deliver up to 7.7 kilowatts. And it's good for a portable charging unit. Now, there are competitive units out there on the market that cost less than this. Most of them are not safety certified. Most of them don't have good warranties. I like this unit because it's really built tough and it's going to last a long time. And I'd rather see people spend a couple dollars more, but get a really good, well-made product. Now, this is a really good, well-made product and it's available for around $400.
And, portable chargers, you don't have to have it mounted on the wall and you wire it. It just requires a 240 outlet, correct?
That's correct. I tend to recommend for your home charging use, the charger you're going to use every day, I like to see that hardwired because it eliminates a point of failure. An outlet is a point of failure, but that doesn't work for everybody. And what I like about these portable units is you can take them on the road for different places. So you could charge at your house. Some people have second homes here in New Jersey, like down the Jersey Shore, or they have a winter home up in Vermont or Connecticut. And all they have to do is install an outlet there and plug in. I have friends that have EVs that installed outlets, say at their parents' house. Their parents live 80 miles away. So they just had to install the outlet. They didn't have to buy the charging equipment because they just unplug their charger and go to their parents' house, plug it in when they're there, and then they have enough juice to get home.
All right. Now, number 3 is the Tesla mobile connector.
Yeah. So Tesla makes outstanding charging equipment. I almost think, I love Tesla vehicles. I think Tesla makes really good electric vehicles. I almost think their charging equipment compared to other charging equipment is better than their cars are better compared to other EVs. Tesla really makes good charging, all of it. And we're not going to talk about all of their chargers here today, but two out of the three. So we talked about the mobile connector. The Tesla mobile connector is a dual voltage connector, which means it can charge from a 120 volt source, regular household outlet here in North America, or it can charge from a 240 volt outlet, a NEMA 1450 outlet. So depending on what type of outlet you have available, you can use this on either supply. And it's a very good, small, lightweight unit. It comes with a 20-foot cable, nice cable, comes in a nice handy carrying case. And for $230 is what Tesla charges for this. It's a ridiculously good deal. It may be one of the best deals you can buy of any charging equipment out there today.
And does it only charge Teslas, or can you charge any electric car? So
out of the bag, it'll only charge Teslas because it has the Tesla connector. But you can buy a Tesla to J1772 adapter and use it to charge any electric vehicle.
All right. Well, the next one is the wall connector from Tesla. How is this one different?
Again, Tesla. So Tesla's wall connector is their permanently mounted, hardwired connector that gets mounted on your wall. It's not portable. It's 48 amps. It can deliver up to 11.5 kilowatt, which is pretty much most electric vehicles top out at being able to accept 11.5 kilowatt. Now, some of the newer EVs with really big batteries can accept up to 80 amps, which is 19.2 kilowatts. But for all intents and purposes, the 48 amp 11.5 chargers like the Tesla wall connector are pretty much as powerful as most people would need. And Tesla sells it for $425. It's a fantastic value. And again, you can just buy that and then get an adapter to charge your J1772 vehicle. Tesla also sells a version of this with a J1772 connector, but they charge, geez, I think it's like $100 more. So that pushed it up over $500. It's why it's not on this list here today. But you can get the wall connector and charge any electric vehicle with it if you just buy an adapter.
All right. The last but not least is the Emporia charger.
Yeah. So the Emporia charger is relatively new. It's been out for about a year now, I think, maybe slightly more. And honestly, it's a fantastic charger at a fantastic price. It's $399. Most comparable chargers on the market today that can do what the Emporia can do cost at least $200 more. It's a 48 amp charger, and it's a smart charger. It has an app, Wi-Fi connected, and Emporia sells a whole ecosystem of energy monitoring and energy saving devices. And for instance, with this Emporia charger, if you buy what they call the Emporia View, or the View 2, I think it's called, it's another piece of equipment you need to buy from Emporia, and you have solar electric, you can use the two to only charge your EV from excess solar production. So the solar that your house isn't using will trickle feed the battery on your car. So you can say, my car is only charged with solar electricity. And there's very few chargers out there that can do that. So it's got a lot of options, and at the price, at the $399, it's just a sick deal. Honestly, it may be the best deal available out there today. I mean, the Tesla wall connector is an awesome deal. The Tesla mobile connector is a fantastic deal, but for a permanently mounted, 48 amp charger to hang on the wall of your garage, it's tough to beat the Emporia these days.
All right. Well, listen, I got to ask you this one. Out of these five, what would be your top pick?
Alex, I'm such a nerd. There's things I like about each one of these chargers. Like, I love the fact that the Tesla wall connector they call it daisy chain. And that means you can share one circuit and add a bunch of chargers. So it'd have to be between the wall connector and the Emporia.
Tom, they're not your children. You can pick one. It's okay.
Oh, geez. They are my children. Look.
I know they are.
Okay, I'm going to qualify. If I owned a Tesla, I would probably get the wall connector. If I owned any other electric vehicle, probably the Emporia.
All right, now in the next video, Tom reveals the 5 fastest home electric chargers for your EV. But of course, there is a caveat. All right, Tom, we are talking about fastest home chargers, but before we dive into the list, we need to talk about the elephant in the room here, because what is a fast charger? There is more to it than just the speed of the chargers we're going to be talking about, correct?
Absolutely, Alex. And first, we are talking about like home charging equipment. There are DC fast chargers and superchargers out there that you can't buy for your house. So we're talking about like at home or work charging. That's number one. Number two, you have to remember the car always dictates how much power it will take in. So you have to know what the limit your car is and kind of match it to the charger that you're going to buy. Now, we're going to talk today about the chargers that can deliver the most power that you could buy for your home. It doesn't mean your EV will be able to accept that much power. Some EVs can, especially some of the new EVs with the really big batteries. But always make sure you know how much power your EV can take in. And we're going to now talk about the chargers that can deliver the most power.
And I know that the top two that we're going to talk about first are bidirectional, which is like opens up a whole new universe. So let's start with the Ford one.
Right. So the Ford Charge Station Pro, I actually have it here in my garage and I use it to charge my Ford F-150 Lightning. It's a 80 amp charger. It can deliver 19 kilowatts to the vehicle. And it's bidirectional, as you said, and that's because the Lightning not only can accept power from the Charge Station Pro, but it can send power back to my house. And I have, it's called the Intelligent Backup Power System. I have that installed also at the house. So during a power outage, my truck can power my house. Now the Charge Station Pro, when it charges a vehicle, it's different. There's the charging gets done through some circuits, and then the powering the house is completely separate. So you actually need two feeds going to the Charge Station Pro. But it's a very powerful 80 amp charger, and it can deliver up to 19 kilowatts to my Lightning.
All right, well, the next one is from Lucid, and it is also bidirectional, but tell us a little bit about it, but also compare the two a little bit, if you don't mind.
So it's basically, it's the same thing, Alex, just in a different package. It's an 80 amp charger. It's actually much more small and sleek than the Charge Station Pro. I don't have it yet. But the good news is Lucid just emailed me this week and said they're sending me one so I can do a review of it. And I'll be able to really compare it side by side with the Charge Station Pro. But it's bidirectional. It can deliver 80 amps to any electric vehicle that has a CCS plug. And it can also accept power from the electric vehicle. The bad news is these early stage EVs that can do bidirectional power, it doesn't appear that they can do it with different equipment, meaning my Lightning can do it with the Ford Charge Station Pro, but it won't be able to do it with the Lucid charger, and vice versa. If I had a Lucid Air here, I couldn't use it to send power to my house. Now, both chargers can charge any electric vehicle. The charging side is fine, but when it takes power back from the vehicle, where we are right now, because this is all very new in the industry, it's all proprietary information, and you can't have one unit work with a bunch of different EVs.
Now, before we get to the other ones, let's talk about charging a Tesla using these two. Can you and do you lose the speed at which you can charge a Tesla with these two?
So Teslas are currently limited to accepting only 48 amps, which is 11.5 kilowatt. So for me to charge a Tesla on one of these chargers, it wouldn't charge any faster than if I charged it from the Emporia or the Tesla wall connector, because the car is going to limit how much power it takes in. When Tesla first started selling the Model S years ago, they offered an option. It was called dual onboard chargers, and those cars accepted 80 amps. But after a few years, Tesla dropped that option, and it's no longer available now.
I had one of those. I think it was my 75D that had 80 amps. Yeah, I missed it a little. But okay, let's move on to the third one, and it's the Clipper Creek CS100. Right.
So this is like the original 80 amp charger. The Clipper Creek. This was the first one to ever come out on the market. This unit's been available for like 12 years, Alex, like before the Model S even came out. Clipper Creek's like old school. They're like the original company in the US that were making electric vehicle charging equipment. So it's a little bit more expensive. Both the Ford Charge Station Pro and the Lucid Charger are both cost around $1,200, $1,300. And this Clipper Creek unit's over $2,000. It's a very good unit. It's safety certified. It's been on the market for many years. It's true and tested. It's very durable. It's great for outdoor installations, but it is pretty expensive. It's a good solid unit though.
All right. Well, my most favorite thing about the next two chargers are their names. So let's get to the Wattzilla Uno.
Yeah. So now we're getting a little bit out on the fringe. You know, there's not a lot of 80 amp chargers available today. And we're talking about the Wattzilla Uno now. Wattzilla makes charging equipment. They've been around for a few years, and it's very like industrial looking, stainless steel. It's not, if you just looked at a picture of it, you'd probably say like, oh, that doesn't look like it's a polished product. But they've been around a while and they make good, solid equipment. It's safety certified, Energy Star certified. It's a good, solid charger. But again, it's over $2,000, so it is expensive.
All right. And the last but not least is WhatSnap.
Yeah, the WhatSnap is a brand new unit. I haven't seen one in person. I haven't used it yet, but I did put it on the list because it's an 80 amp charger and there's very few 80 amp chargers available. It's brand new. I'm probably going to try to get a hold of one at some point soon just to test it out, but it is an option. But again, that one's over $2,000. I think it's $2,100. So it seems like the Ford and Lucid with their lower prices, the $1,200, $1,300, I think they're catering to their customers and maybe selling them at cost. But when these third-party companies come out, Clipper Creek, Wattzilla, what was it? I forget the name of it.
WhatSnap.
The last one, WhatSnap. Yeah, I keep thinking WhatsApp in my head, and I know it's not called WhatsApp.
It's a pun on a
WhatSnap.
pun.
Yeah, and I think they need to build in a profit margin, which is why they cost $2,000. These are expensive equipment, all the contactors inside, really thick connections. That's why they cost so much more than the lower powered chargers do. But you know, if you have an electric vehicle that can accept 80 amps, you might want to consider getting one because it'll charge the car so much faster. My Lightning charges so much quicker when I use the Charge Station Pro than when I use, say, the Tesla wall connector.
Now, if let's say I want my car to be charged as fast as possible while I'm asleep in my garage, where do I find out how fast does my car can charge? And whether or not it can match one of these charging stations that I either already have or thinking about buying.
So, you know, first of all, your dealer should be able to, your salesperson should be able to tell you how much power the car can take in. That's not always the case. The manufacturer websites always have that information. You know, there's if you just do Google searches, I mean, I write for Inside EVs. We go into deep detail on charging and how much power electric vehicles can take in, because all electric vehicles have different power levels on what they can take in. Typically, it's either 32 amps, 40 amps, 48 amps, or now we have these new EVs with bigger batteries. I think GM is going to lean heavily into these 80 amp onboard chargers with their new products, the Silverados. The Hummer can't yet, but next year it's going to be able to accept 80 amps. The Cadillac Lyric's going to be able to accept 80 amps. So I expect Cadillac to come out with their own branded 80 amp charger soon. But your best place is probably on the manufacturer's website, Alex.
All right, well, and I got to ask you this. Out of these five, which one would be Tom's top pick?
Well, I own and use the Charge Station Pro. It's one of the lowest priced ones out of all. I mean, it's $700-800 less than the other ones, except for the Lucid. The Lucid's comparably priced. Right now, I'd have to say Charge Station Pro I love, but I'll be getting the Lucid in a week or so. So maybe we'll have to revisit this and do a head-to-head comparison once I've had a chance to use the Lucid charger for a while.
All right, so the last video that I'm going to show you is probably the most important, because this is where Tom reveals the best electric car chargers for your home. But of course, what's good for you is not necessarily what's good for me. We're all very different electric car owners with different electric cars, with different electric car needs. luckily we have Tom to explain all of these categories that a lot of people don't even know they fall into and what their choices of the best chargers are. Pay attention.
Now, I hate to tell you this, but there is no such thing as the best electric car charger, just like there is no such thing as the best electric car or the best sushi restaurant. It's different for everybody. So instead of doing a top 5 common denominator best chargers for an average consumer list, we're going to talk about best chargers in different categories. The best home chargers on a budget, the best smart home chargers, the best Tesla chargers, and a few other categories that I'm sure you will be able to relate to. But I'm not doing it alone. I got the best guy in the business to help us out. You know him as our weekly contributor. He's also contributes to Forbes and Inside EVs, but most importantly, he is the host of his own YouTube channel dedicated to home and fast charging. Of course, I'm talking about Tom Moloughney. All right, Tom, I would not dare make this video without you because by far you are the best expert in the industry. If anything, your backdrop definitely showcases that. So let's jump right in. And before we get to the categories, let's talk about a couple of things that people ask all the time. One, people call these chargers, by the way, and I know you corrected me and you said these are charging stations. What is the difference?
So, yeah, I know everybody calls them chargers, but the technical term is actually EVSE, electric vehicle supply equipment. That's because the charger is built into every electric car. Every electric car has what's called an onboard charger. That's the device that actually charges the car. These EVSE or charging stations just supply energy to the vehicle safely. They're really just glorified safety devices, Alex.
All right, and that brings me to another question, which is, we decided not to have a category of the fastest charger because everybody wants to charge their cars as fast as possible. Why can't we talk about which charger is the fastest?
So you asked me about that. Let's do the fastest charging station. And the reason why I kind of said I don't think that's a good way to go was because the car always dictates how fast it charges on AC level 2 charging. There is plenty of charging stations that can deliver up to 48 amps, which is really the maximum that any EV can accept today. So it's not really fair to pick one of those because there's a bunch of them available on the market that can deliver up to 48 amps.
All right, and that brings me to another question that I asked pretty often, I'm sure you as well, is, well, why can't, my car can charge at the supercharger or Electrify America very, very fast. So why can't I do it at home?
Okay, because there's two different types of charging. There's AC, which is alternating current, and DC, direct current charging. At home, level 1 charging is a regular household outlet. That's 120 volts. Level 2 charging is 240 volts, which is behind me. Now, energy is stored in a battery as direct current, DC. So when you charge a car from AC, either level 1 or level 2, it has to be converted to DC. That's basically what the onboard charger does. So imagine the electricity coming from these units has to go through the onboard charger. It converts it to DC, direct current, and stores it in the battery. So that's why the onboard charger is the bottleneck. It restricts how fast the car can charge. When you charge DC fast charging or supercharging, you take energy directly from that charging station and it goes right into the battery. It doesn't have to go through the onboard charger, so it's not restricted. So that way the battery can accept a lot more energy and charge a lot faster.
All right, so now I feel like we're ready to jump into the categories. And the first category is the best smart home charging station.
Yeah, so I'd like to point out first that these are my opinions. There's a few really good ones on the market, so I'm going to tell you which one's my favorite and then mention a couple other ones that are really close that I think are great deals also. My favorite smart charger is the NLX Juice Box. It has more smart charging features than any other smart charger. We talk about smart chargers, are chargers that are like Wi-Fi enabled. They come with an app. You can view your past charging sessions. Sometimes you can adjust the current. You could schedule it to charge from your app. You can see, how long the car's been charging, how much energy it took in. Many of them you can even pair with Amazon Alexa or Google Home and say, hey, Alexa, charge my car, and the car starts charging. You could say, hey, Alexa, how long has my car been charging? And it'll tell you. So it has a lot of smart charging features, but the Juice Box also allows you to pair your charger with your local utility, and through a service called JuiceNet Green, charge your car when the most cleanest energy is available during the day. So that's important for a lot of EV drivers. They want to be clean. They want their car to be zero emissions. The Juice Box is one of the only chargers that allows you to actually select when you charge your car based on how clean the grid is. Honorable mentions go to the Wallbox Pulsar Plus and also the ChargePoint Home Flex. They're also two very good smart chargers.
Let's move on to the next category, which is the best value.
Okay, that one should be pretty quick. The Grizzl-E here, 40 amp Grizzl-E Classic, I think it's the best value for a charger. It's a dumb charger. It's not a smart charger, so it doesn't pair with Wi-Fi. You can't select an app. That version is coming out, but for now, the Classic is just the way it is. It's a 40 amp charger. It's built really tough. It has adjustable power, so you could set it to deliver the power that you want based on what your circuit can supply. And up until very recently, it only cost $399. Now, it recently jumped up to $459. I don't know if that's a permanent price increase. I think it could be temporary because of the shortage with semiconductor chips and so forth. But even at $459, it's a great value, and that's my best value choice.
And now we come to the category that obviously dictates itself within the entire electric car community. We're going to talk about specific chargers for Tesla drivers. It is its own category.
Yeah, and you have to do this, Alex, because there are so many Teslas sold. I mean, Teslas account for, I forget what the exact percentage is, something like 75% of all EVs in the US. So, we had to give them their own category. And another reason why is because they have their own connector. Tesla uses a different connector than all of the other electric vehicles in North America. They use their Tesla proprietary connector. Every other electric vehicle uses this, the J1772. So for Tesla owners, I think it's particularly important that they get, in my opinion, the best choice is the Tesla wall connector. It's at a good price. It delivers up to 48 amps, and it has the Tesla connector standard, so you don't need an adapter. You could use one of the other charging stations to charge your Tesla with the adapter that's provided by Tesla when you buy your Tesla. It comes with the car, so you could use any of these. But there's no need to use this for daily charging when Tesla has such a good solution. I think it's best off to just buy the Tesla wall connector.
Now, the adapter you just showed, that's so the Tesla charger can charge a different car, or that the non-Tesla charger can charge the Tesla car?
So what comes free with your car is this adapter that allows you to charge your Tesla with another charging station. Let's say you already had one at your house, you didn't want to buy another one. Tesla gives you this for free. Good on them. But let's say you already own a Tesla, so you have a Tesla wall connector in your garage, and now you buy a Mustang Mach-E or ID4 or any other electric vehicle. You say, geez, I got to go out and get another charging station, because it has a different connector. You don't have to. You can buy one of these adapters. It's a Tesla to J1772 adapter. This is a nice Tesla Tap Mini, one of my favorite ones, and this one's just the Tesla Tap. But the one thing I need to point out, this is super important. There's a lot of very cheap units of these available today, like on Amazon, that are not made well. They burn out. Make sure you get a good quality made one. Don't go buying the cheapest one that's available. It's going to melt the connectors. The pins are going to burn out. Get one that matches the amperage of your car. If you have a car that can accept 40 amps, make sure you get one that can deliver at least 50 amps. Oversize it a little bit, because I've seen so many nightmare stories of people melting cheap connectors and then damaging their car.
All right, so our next category is portable charging stations. What would you call them, and what are they?
So I just call them either EVSE or portable charging equipment. And what that is are the smaller units like this amazing E that we have here that you would carry around with you in your car. A lot of people like to have charging equipment in the back of their EV in case they need to plug in on the road. Some EVs come with a nice portable EVSE, a level 2 unit that can charge the car relatively quickly, but some cars come with very weak charging equipment as standard. A level 1 unit that trickle charges, you only get about 3 or 4 miles of range per hour, and those owners prefer to go out and buy a nice level 2 charging unit. My favorite are the two from Amazing E. The Amazing E 16 amp portable charging unit, and also the Amazing E Fast, which is a 32 amp unit. Why do I like Amazing E? They're super quality. That's what I really like about Amazing E, more so than some of the other portable charging equipment. You can find them on Amazon. There's dozens of them, many from companies you've never heard of, a lot of them being imported from Asia, with like 30-day or 60-day warranties. They're not safety certified. They're really not safe to use. These units here cost a little more. I'll be right up front with you. But they're solid units with really good warranties, and they're safe. You know, you just spent $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on this brand new EV, and now you're trying to save $50 on the charging equipment. It really doesn't make sense. Buy a nice quality unit and it will last you a long time, and you won't have any problems with connectors melting or plugs burning out. Get a good solid unit and you won't regret that decision.
All right, now the next category is outdoor charging stations, because I think it's easy to assume when we talk about home charging, it's always inside the garage, but a lot of people either don't use their garage or don't have a garage. So this is something that is kind of a whole different animal that has to literally weather the storm.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different aspects in charging equipment. And if you're going to buy one to mount it outside, there's a few more things that you need to look at. How well the cable is. If you live in a cold weather area, how does that hold up in really frigid cold weathers? Does it remain nice and bendable and pliable, or does it get like a frozen rope and you can't even bend it? The unit also, you need to know what the NEMA waterproof rating is. Some of these units have better NEMA ratings. If you're going to mount your unit outside and you live in an area where it frequently rains or snows, you should look for a NEMA 4 rated unit. The units that I think that are the best for outdoor are Clipper Creek products. Clipper Creek makes absolutely fantastic products. Some of the most durable products. They've been around forever, Clipper Creek. They're like the OG of EV charging stations. And their units are some of the most robust units available. Honorable mention goes to the Grizzl-E. That's also a super tough unit. This thing can withstand just about anything. And also the Flow G5 or X5. Both of these units are made really well. They're metal enclosure, super tough. And these three units here, in my opinion, are the best if you're going to mount them outside and use an outdoor charging solution.
All right, this is the best information that I believe you need to have in order to buy an electric car or buy an electric car home charger for your existing one. So I hope you were paying attention. Like I said, Tom is simply the best. So I would absolutely pay attention to his advice. All right, looking forward to all of your comments. Other than that, see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.